Hey yo, what's happening? Welcome to Lingo Leap, and I'm your host Zay. Starting this YouTube channel to go ahead and document my language learning journey and provide you guys with tips and tricks that I learn and I pick up along the way. Spanish always has been an interest of mine ever since I was younger, but I never really took the time out to dedicate myself to actually acquiring the language. It wasn't actually until my first trip outside the country last year, I want to say last year in November, me and a couple of my homeboys, we ran out to Costa Rica. And again, like I said, this is my first time ever leaving the country. It's always been uh, something that I wanted to do, but just never took the opportunity to make it happen. So once the opportunity presented itself, I just jumped on it. And I'm so glad I did. And a little side note, if you ain't never left the country, if you never travel and you always wanted to travel, just take the leap of faith and believe you me, do it. Like, that trip changed my life and it opened up my eyes to a whole nother world that I never dreamed or thought was actually possible. But back to it, why am I learning Spanish? On this trip, again, me and two of my homies ended up going to Costa Rica, and it just so happened that one of them was able to speak Spanish. And watching him being able to interact and mingle with the locals actually made me jealous inside. But jealous in a good way because it just pointed out to me exactly where I wanted to be. And after doing some self-reflecting and realizing, yo, I've been telling myself, or I've been make myself this promise that, yo, one day I'm gonna learn Spanish, one day I'm gonna learn Spanish, and dipping and dabbling, doing little things here and there to say I'm learning Spanish. I just never really did it. But after seeing him in action, I said, yo, I'm gonna go ahead and buckle down and I'm gonna do this thing. Like, no ifs, ands, buts, and maybe. It was one of those things like, yo, if he could do it, I know for a fact I can. Not to say that take any discredit from him, but I seen that it was possible type shit. So coming back from that trip, I decided to hop on Duolingo and not only just do a little 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there type thing, but actually like complete full out lessons and go hard. Um, along my journey, naturally I hopped on YouTube to try to get some tips and advice of how to learn this language. And one of the biggest things I kept running across was practice listening. So I decided, alright, I'm gonna start listening to more Spanish music, particularly reggaeton, since at the time I was a Uber driver and I spent a lot of my time in the car anyway. So I was like, alright, let me just go ahead and throw on some Spanish music and see if I'll be able to pick up some things. It was good practice to actually getting used to the language and the sound of it, but from what I discovered, I wasn't actually learning anything. But of course, meeting different people while I was doing Uber and stuff, I've run across other people that just so happen to be bilingual, and I will always ask them, so what would be your suggestion of how to learn and stuff like that? And they kept telling me I was doing the right thing. I said, yo, keep listening, however you're learning, when you, like, for example, I was using Duolingo, you do your Duolingo lessons, keep practicing listening, and just more and more you'll start to understand. And I seen it working. I seen some progress to where on my next trip, me and my homies we ended up going to Colombia this time, and I was amped. I was like, alright, cool. I've been putting in the work. I've been doing my thing. I want to say probably was like 6 months from my Costa Rica trip to this Colombia trip, and I'm like, alright, cool. I should be able to mingle some type of way. Lo and behold, I get down there. Of course, I am nowhere near ready. I am nowhere near prepared. The biggest problem that I've noticed that I was running into was they would speak to me, but I have no idea, or I could not comprehend anything that they said. So on paper, like I was able to read and understand and comprehend reading, but I could not listen and comprehend. Alright, so after I realized that Duolingo by itself was not going to cut it, and that, yeah, granted, I could read and I could read, I could read for the most part and comprehend what I'm reading, but as far as like being able to listen and hear somebody speak to me and understand, it was a no-go. So I had to come up with I had to figure out another solution. Granted, yeah, I was listening to a ton of music, but the comprehension was still not there. Like, I was able to sing along and I knew the words to the song, but I didn't know what I was saying. So naturally, I took to YouTube to try to figure out how to fix this problem. So I'll say about like 2 months ago, I stumbled across Dreaming Spanish. And the crazy thing about Dreaming Spanish is I've always seen videos with Dreaming Spanish in the title, but I never clicked on it because I was just automatically assumed it was more so along the lines of learning Spanish while you sleep, which I just knew that wasn't the case and it wasn't even possible. Well, I didn't believe it was possible, so I thought it was a waste of time. But I finally broke and went ahead and clicked one of the videos and found out that it's actually comprehensible input. And the concept of comprehensible input is input at the current level that you are at where you can understand. So they break it down, or they speak slow enough, or they speak in a basic, and they use basic words to get their point across to where you can understand it and get the gist of the message being conveyed to you. And naturally, you'll pick up on the language that way. And more so, if you really think about it, that's how you actually learn your first language. That just by people talking to you, like you consuming content, watching TV, kids shows, and stuff like that. You just naturally pick up on the language without having to study grammar or memorizing vocabulary or anything like that. And when I discovered and I read up on the method, I was sold. So I've been doing that consistently for almost 2 months now. I want to say right now I'm at like 54, 55 consecutive days, and I'm somewhere around about like 250 hours of input. I'm gonna leave a link to the website so you can read up on the method yourself and get a better understanding. I'm just giving an overall gist of my interpretation of what I'm doing and how I'm doing it type thing. So, according to the Dreaming Spanish roadmap, your initial goal to reach native fluency level is about 1,500 hours. Right now, I'm currently at about 250, and the next level of the milestone is about like 300 hours. Once you read the article and you take a look at it yourself, if you care about how you sound and your accent and you don't want to sound like a straight up gringo or a straight foreigner type thing, they highly recommend that you don't start speaking off the bat and wait until you reach somewhere in between 600 and 1,000 hours. More so after 1,000 hours, they say go ahead and start to practice speaking, but you can do it somewhere around after 600. But if you really care about how you sound and your pronunciation and stuff like that, they say wait. Another reason why I believe in this method, my second time in Colombia, I actually ended up spending about like 2 weeks out there. So I was taking a lot of Ubers, and every now and then I would stumble across an Uber driver that was learning English or knew how to speak English, which, by the way, in Colombia, it's rare. It's really, really rare, but every now and then you get a sprinkle. There was one Uber driver, matter of fact, two Uber drivers that stuck out to me completely. and getting conversing with him, conversing with the first one, conversing with the first one, he had a strong accent. I couldn't help but notice he had a strong accent, but he spoke English well enough for me to understand and converse with him. He stated that he studied in school or like he went to college and and he learned English there. And then there was another Uber driver that spoke English so well I was confused. And diving into his story, he's from Colombia, never really left Colombia, and thing like that. And he said that he learned English by just watching watching movies and watching shows that he enjoyed. And I noticed, like I said, he sounded closer to a native English speaker than the guy who actually went to school or went to college studying um, to study English. So I say all that to say that once you read the article and you check out the website and Pablo breaks it down to you, it just reaffirmed and like, all right, cool. This most definitely is the approach that I need to be taking. So again, like where I'm at on my journey, like ultimately the goal is to get to 1,500 hours to reach about a native level of fluency, and I'm sitting at about 250 hours of track input because I'm not counting any of the time that I put in prior to actually tracking my hours, because I was watching movies and I was watching a couple of shows in Spanish, but I would never I wasn't tracking my hours or keeping track of the measuring of how much time I'm actually spending. But since tracking and beginning like officially like going hard on this journey, I'm at about 250 hours. Again, I'm knocking on about 50, 54, 55 consecutive days of input, and I'm currently averaging about 3.5 hours per day. Now, granted, the goal for me is 5 hours per day, and yes, this shit is intense, but this is something that I really want, and I'm really dedicated on accomplishing this. So I'm go ahead and leave you off with that. My future plans for the language is once I hit about like 600, 800 hours, I do want to attend a school in Colombia where they would teach me Spanish. This way I could actually start practicing speaking and making sure that I'm pronunciating the words actually correct. So hopefully that's something that I'll be able to take you guys along with, so show you the process. And again, um, this is just my introduction. Yo, hope you guys would love to accompany me along my journey. If you're on your own journey, um, go ahead and leave a comment and let me know. We can take this trip together and help inspire and keep each other motivated along the way. But until next time, I'm going to see y'all. Peace.